Begin with two data sets, one of your tax parcel polygons with CAMA data and the other a table of property sales. Join the parcels to the sales based on the parcel ID using the Create Relationships tool. This joins parcel polygons to sales and creates a new output dataset with the joined data. We're using an inner join here, which means that only records from the parcels that match the sales will be kept. Next, we're going to create a sales ratio field in our data. Open the data table and create a new field. Name your field and calculate it with a simple expression. In this case, our sales ratio is calculated by dividing the assessed value of a property or its market value by the sale amount and then multiplying by 100 to get the percentage. Let's go ahead and add our newly created sales ratio information to the workbook. And let's filter out some of the high ratios in the dataset. Creating a filter at the data level will perpetuate that filter throughout the rest of the work we do, so that we know we're only looking at valid sales. After the filter has been applied, let's go back to the map card and symbolize the information by clicking on the layer in the map card. This will bring up the properties. You can see that we have our information styled by counts and amounts, and we're going to change the classification so that our data reflects the inner and outer quartiles. Inner quartile analysis is a method of looking at your data as defined by the IAAO. By symbolizing the data this way, we can view the inner quartiles pertinent to our sales ratio study or outer quartiles, which could be meaningful in an outlier analysis study. Here, we've also added the sales ratio layer from the map to a chart card and created a histogram showing the distribution of sales ratio information. Next, let's create two predefined filters to filter our report. The first will be by assessment neighborhood. Assessment neighborhoods group like properties together. Search for the assessment neighborhood field and then add the filter based on value. Each assessment neighborhood will then be listed in the predefined filter list. The second filter will be by the sales ratio quartiles we previously defined. And in this case, we'll need to add 3 definitions to the filter and label them accordingly. So search and choose for the sales ratio field. Adjust the filter value appropriately and click Apply and rename the filter in the card. Complete this process 2 more times to define the other filter values. Notice that as we add the defined value filters, the data will appear in the map card and the histogram. Optionally, adjust the cards in your workbook to fit the space. Don't forget to save your workbook. One of the great powers of Insights is the ability to drag and drop numeric fields onto cards in your workbook and quickly create summary statistics. Not only can you create them, but you can also move between statistics on the fly. Say you're interested in looking at the average taxable value or the median taxable value. By using the drop-down in the card, you can easily switch between these statistics to update your view of the data. You can also adjust the statistic in the card properties. These KPI cards will update based on the filters and selections you have made throughout the rest of your workbook. Here we're adding 4 summary statistics from our CAMA data: current assessed value, current taxable value, land value, and sale amount. In the same way, we can add several box plots to the workbook, which helps us to visualize where outliers might be present in the data. We're adding 3 box plots to this workbook by dragging and dropping the field in which we are interested into the workbook and creating a chart card styled as a box plot. The box plots here look at building area, number of floors, and residential floor area. These box plots will also update based on the filters and selections you have made throughout the rest of the workbook, and they are also selectable so they can drive the selection process. Let's also add a bar chart designating how many sales are in which school district. School districts are an important taxing jurisdiction and in a lot of cases can drive property value within your community. Finally, let's add a summary table that provides a detailed look into the individual property details. The summary table will filter based on the selections you have made throughout the workbook and only detail those properties which you have defined through your filters and selections. Simply select the fields in which you are interested in the data pane on the left, then drag them onto the workbook and create a table card. Adjust the size of the table card to see the fields you have added. Also, just like in the KPI cards, you can switch between the statistics in the numeric fields on the summary table. In the last few minutes, you have seen how to create a workbook using parcel polygons and tabular sales data to support you in sales ratio and outlier analysis studies.